Hello, everybody, and good morning. Welcome, welcome. It is the last Sunday of the month, right? Yes, and then Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, that's right.
I cannot believe we're already going to be in September, which is insane to me.
This year went really quick when you really think about it.
Good morning, Jennifer. Dr. Seth, I could see what you were saying where your face was like there was no lighting and then it just came through because the replay is like a few minutes behind. So. Is everybody ready for August to be over? Oh boy. This year, like you said. Good morning, everybody. Whoever's on, if you guys can send us a message and say hello. Hello, hello. Yes, Jennifer, I am ready for the fires to be out. The air quality down here yesterday was like 200, which totally sucked because it was such the perfect day to hang out by the pool, go to the park, be active. That's the hardest thing I think for all of us right now is like trying to be active, but not being able to be outside. And so, hi, Rebecca. Good morning. We've got all of our diffusers going to support air quality. We probably should have done a talk on that today, Seth.
Yeah, hindsight being 2020.
Right? Actually, why everybody's hopping on here because you guys can watch this later. Good morning, Crystal. Let's talk really quickly about air quality. It's not the topic for today, but it is highly crucial for those of us that are in the Sacramento area. One thing that we have been doing in our house is running our air purifiers like crazy. We've been changing our filters. Normally, I think we change them like what, every 6 months, Seth?
6 months for us.
But
Yeah.
we've been almost doing it like every month to month and a half right now, just because it's been so bad. We're huge fans of essential oils. They're purifying and cleansing to the air quality that you're breathing in. So some of the essential oils that we've been diffusing for air quality support have been an essential oil blend called Breathe, which has like peppermint in it, ravisarin, so like peppermint, eucalyptus. Lime is a really good citrus oil to be diffused in an essential oil diffuser because it has specific properties for respiratory health. So lime oil is another really good thing to do. We've obviously been staying inside. We've been drinking a ton of water to help like purify and cleanse our body. We've been taking a few extra supplements to support the detox pathways in our body so that we don't have any of that ick staying in. Because I know that it's pretty common right now with the fires for everybody to have like those headaches. That's really, really common right now. So we've been upping some of our like detoxification pathway supplements. What are some other things we've been doing with this bad air quality?
Well, so like we like to bomb our rooms with ozone. So we have basically an air sanitation unit. They're hard to get a hold of in California, but you know, we've got our ways. But basically what you don't want is particulates floating around in the air and then you're breathing them in. So, you know, you obviously don't want to use something like an ozone filtration and then be in that room, but we'll like put it in our bedroom, shut the door, run it for an hour. Mm-hmm. And what it does is it takes the oxygen molecules or the dust molecules and binds to it. So it makes it so heavy that it can't float in the air and it drops down, creating a more of a sanitary environment. So we do that in the office at night. And then we also do that at home. And we just kind of move it from room to room, just trying to create as clean of an environment as possible.
Rebecca asked what supplements specifically. NAC, N-acetylcysteine, is really good for just a detoxification. It's not meant to be taken all the time, but it is really good for respiratory support. Also, there's a specific virus that's going around right now that attacks the respiratory system specifically as well too. Wink, wink. So NAC is a really good product. It's kind of hard to get now because the FDA now wants to not allow it as a supplement. So the one that we buy is from Thorne. If you need help getting access to that, just send me an email and I can help you. But NAC is a great product. In fact, the whole month of September, we're going to talk about immune support, having like your first aid kit at home. And we're talking like a homeopathic natural first aid kit. So that literally is going to take us weeks to go over. And this is going to go for like, even if you've got kids, what to do to prepare yourself from nasty viruses, different variants going on right now. So literally the entire month of September, we have dedicated to teaching you how to make sure that you are locked and loaded if anything enters your way, how to do it the right way, the safe way that only supports your body, doesn't like create harm. And so we've got a lot of really fun stuff coming up in September. I'm very, very, very excited. So
yeah, and then here's our mindset shift. The worst time to be scrambling, trying to work on your health is when you need it the most. So right. You want to have your war chest ready. You want to have your supplements ready to rock and roll, and pray to God we don't need them. But if we do, we are prepared. Mm-hmm. Being unprepared and saying, well, I don't want to go to the emergency room, or I don't want to go to the hospital. Well, you don't have any other recourse if you're not taking the steps necessary beforehand. So just make sure you're ready to go, locked and loaded. Let's do this thing.
Yeah. And so I will pre-frame September. We're going to go over like a lot of products. I will actually show you our medicine cabinet so that you guys know what we have. So that, again, like he said, like if there's ever an issue, our reaction never comes from a place of fear. It's like, we've done all the necessary prep work. We have everything that we need, which is why we're like most people's 911 call, because they know that we've got everything that's necessary. But again, we're going to go over products that you should have. Doesn't mean you need to get them all, but slowly work on your arsenal. This is even things that I work with our mommies that are doing more of a natural birth, is creating that war chest of natural remedies so that when something happens, you have it and there's no lag time when it comes to healing. So, all right, that's all September. Today we're still in August. So let's go ahead and get rocking and rolling with all things gluten, dairy, corn, and soy. We've kind of already covered nutrition, but what we're finding is that a lot of people still always need support with nutrition, right? Is that a yes or yes, right? And what happens is a lot of people, especially our private clients and patients, have done food sensitivity tests, which monitors their IgG response, which we're going to talk all about that today. And a lot of times don't have like gluten, dairy, corn, or soy show up on their IgG food sensitivity report and are wondering why we still recommend a dairy, gluten, corn, and soy-free diet. So we're going to talk about the difference between a food sensitivity, a food intolerance, a food allergy, and then also just overall like nutrition fundamental basics. So go ahead and get started with that, Dr. Steph.
Yeah, so we really want to talk about what an IgG test is and what it isn't, right? So it's your body's immune response to the foods that you're putting into your body. I don't need a show me test to test your sensitivity to mercury in your blood. We know that it's bad for you, right? So that's kind of the way that we need to think about things, independent of whether or not your immune system reacts to it. We know certain foods are inherently not good for you. So for instance, cottonseed oil. Cottonseed oil is one of the most inflammatory oils you could possibly put in your body.
And soybean oil.
And soybean oil. Yeah, there's some heavy hitters out there, but independent of whether or not your immune system reacts to it, it creates inflammation in the body. It extra steps. It's hard for your digestive system to clear it. So we don't need a show me test in that way. So the foods we're going to talk about this morning inherently, and it's not that they're bad foods at their core, it's just we have turned them into bad foods. So unfortunately, those are the ones that are mass produced. Those are the ones that have the most yucky stuff in them. Those are the ones we have to avoid.
Yes, absolutely. And again, let's kind of cover like IgE as an elephant, right? So IgE is an anaphylactic response. So that's like what we're pretty used to, like with peanuts, or some people have IgE responses to like nuts. Those are like, I need an EpiPen. I'm going to die if you don't give this to me. Why I'd like to say those aren't really that common. They're becoming pretty common nowadays. I mean, most of our patients have some component of an IgG or IgE response. And again, that's different. I was talking to one of our patients the other day. She is like super, super allergic, like IgE response to dairy. And somebody was trying to be nice and it was like, oh yeah, my cousin's intolerant to dairy. And it's like intolerance and an IgE, like anaphylactic response, is not the same thing. Intolerance means you don't really do well with it, but it's not going to create a systemic response that could potentially kill you. So again, and that person was just trying to communicate and like share, which it wasn't their fault. But again, there's a difference between an IgE, an intolerance, and an IgG. And when we specifically are running IgG panels, which is like what Everlywell does, it's kind of like the new thing. We're looking specifically for your food sensitivities to heal your gut, because we know the gut controls and regulates about anywhere from 70 to 90% of your immune response. And that's really the crucial component when it comes to healing your body, ridding it of viruses, parasites, bacteria. So again, the reason why we also run that IgG is not that it's not important, that's one extra step that we can take in the healing process to overall put the fire out in your body. So again, even if your IgG doesn't show some of these foods that we're going to talk about today, they're still not a good idea, because they're again adding fuel to a fire, especially if you've got any type of endocrine, hormonal, inflammatory, digestive, any type of issue like that. Because a lot of these foods that we're going to talk about today are neuroendocrine disruptors. They are digestive disruptors. So again, whether you have an IgG response or not, it's again adding fuel to the fire that we don't want. We're trying to put that fire out and get your body healthy and well and healing. So
Yep. So I'm going to kick it off and talk about dairy, since I'm from Wisconsin originally, from the dairy state. I know a lot about it, and I'm glad I live in California now, because doing this talk back home would definitely step on some toes, and people,
yes,
get very passionate about their cheese and milk and whatnot. So first of all, before we talk about anything as it relates to your health, there's just some marketing things that have been ingrained in your brain, and we need to start deprogramming. So the first thing is, milk is given to kids to create strong what, Dr. Lacey?
bones.
Bones, right? Yeah. So, and what they're talking about is there's calcium in milk, and it's even refortified with calcium, fortified with vitamin D, whatever. Pretty much any vegetable you can get your hands on raw has way more mineral and nutrient content than a glass of milk ever could.
And vitamin K too, which is a building block precursor for calcium to be produced in the body. And again, it's just like, what I love is a slick marketing, not love, but again, it's meant to like, oh, okay, well, they say that I should drink milk and it will totally help. And it's like, no, that's not even how it works. There's like a whole cascade process of like, K converts into this, and which again, you guys don't need to know, but it's just not as simple as drinking milk for calcium intake. And in fact, you're way better off taking something like vitamin D3 bound with vitamin K to really support calcium production in the body. And it's proven that vitamin D is the best thing that you can do for bone health, way more than all of the negative side effects of dairy. But again, the Dairy Coalition is not going to be promoting vitamin D, right? And we're huge fans of vitamin D. We'll talk all about that in September, because vitamin D is going to do so many things for you. So again, vitamin D is way better. If you're worried about drinking milk for calcium production, vitamin D is going to be a way better source of bone health than milk.
Yep. And let's think about why a person ingests milk to begin with, right? So when you're a baby, you're literally doubling in size by the first year. From a newborn to year one, you're growing tremendously. And what that takes to grow is an incredible amount of caloric intake. Okay, if you don't have enough caloric intake, you're going to be underdeveloped. These systems don't work properly. And so if you want to double in size, you need a lot of calories, and keep it coming. At this point in our lives, does anybody want to double in size? Right. So the need for milk, and what we're talking about is obviously breast milk, but in this case, cow's milk is a replacement, is just low. So, I mean, literally like one slice of cheese, it's like 110 calories.
I think we looked at those like little slices of cheese way back when, and I was like 90 calories. I'm like, that's a glass of wine. Like, I'd rather have a glass of wine than this little piece of cheese.
Yep. 100%. So that's kind of your mindset. It's like, why are we doing this? Right. And the quick answer is there's government subsidies designed to have lots and lots of dairy being produced. I don't know if y'all are aware of this, but there's something called government cheese. So they were looking, way back when, 60, 70 years ago, starvation in the United States was a real thing. So the government's like, all right, how do we solve this problem? Well, we need the most calorically dense food at the cheapest price so our people don't starve to death. Okay. Cheese is a solution. So there's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of excess government cheese because they pay farmers to produce more milk. Okay. Yeah. So if you're starving, have some cheese. If you're not, you probably can go dairy free and be just fine. My last point as it relates to cow's milk versus human milk. The protein coating on cow's milk is 33 times thicker than it is for human milk, which means it takes 33 times the amount of energy to try to break it down. We have how many stomachs, Dr. Lacey?
Just one last time I checked.
Just one, and we struggle mightily with that. Yes. Cows have 4. Okay, so they have 4 because obviously they need to break down grass. There's a whole separate slew of cascades, and I want to get into the physiology of cows, but trust me, we're different. So if you had 4 stomachs, would you be better? Could you probably break down cow's milk better? Yeah, probably you could. But the energy expenditure, it's just not worth it. And so many times people have massive digestive problems. The last thing you need is more dairy. Have I made my point?
I also love, and again, we're with love. We love coaching you guys and we hear it all. It's like, well, I don't think I have any symptoms to dairy. I don't know. I think you just got used to feeling like junk all the time. And so you think you don't have symptoms to dairy and you have no idea until you cut it out. One of the main symptoms that we see with like dairy sensitivity is like the bumps on the back of your arm. And then also like that phlegminess all the time. So that's one thing I tell all of my patients, all my pediatric patients, anytime the kids like have any type of respiratory issue or they've got like, that like phlegmy cough, I'm like, absolutely no dairy, because that is only creating more of an issue. We're not going to go into the science, because if I told you you'd never ever eat dairy, maybe we should, of like what's in cow's milk, all of the chemicals, it's just disgusting. So just take my word for it. Don't consume cow milk, which also leads us into goat milk. Goat is better than cow because it's 2 stomachs versus 4, but it's still not our own human like protein. So again, it's going to take 2 times as much energy and effort as it will for us to do, like, I'm not saying eat breast milk at the age of 30, but I will say originally this used to be really hard about 10, 15 years ago when we went like dairy free. But now there's so many like nut cheeses, there's so many alternatives that really, like, with love, I don't want to hear you complain, because like your health matters and you're worth it. And I'm not saying you can't ever have it, but if you don't buy it in the house, then if you're out somewhere and you eat it, like, it's probably not going to be the end of the world, as long as it's not one of your food sensitivities. But again, I always say control what you can control everything that you purchase at the grocery store and gets delivered to the house. And then that way, when you're out and about, like, it's not the end of the world if you fall off track, because again, it's really easy to course correct. So.
Yeah. And, my and Dr. Lacey's job is to be as militant as possible. And we're going to be all the way over here. Okay. So if we can pull you, if you're all the way over here, we could pull you pretty close. We've done our job. Are you going to be perfect? No, nobody has to be perfect all the time. We're certainly not perfect all the time, probably a little bit more mainline than everybody else is, but that's okay. So if you're like, man, those expectations are almost impossible, like she said, just don't have it in the house. And then if you have it occasionally, you'll be all right.
Right. Yeah. No, we're pretty strict, but nutrition is one of our top priorities for us. So, okay, not everybody's like that, and that's all right. But again, our job is to hold you to the highest level of accountability. So, all right, let's talk. Does anybody have any questions that's watching this live on like dairy? Danny Butler, all the pus. Yes, exactly. Ugh, disgusting. I know if like I ever order something and they accidentally do like cow's milk versus like an almond milk or like a cashew milk, I immediately can taste it. And like within 30 seconds, I immediately go and I start having, and I remember, was it last like November around like Thanksgiving time, I had dairy, something in it. It was like a cheat meal or something. And then I had like all this sinus pressure and everybody's like, do you have COVID? I'm like, no, I freaking ate dairy and my sinuses are congested and clogged, and it's just like, it does not go well. So we are definitely anti-dairy in our house. So definitely not a thing. Okay, let's talk about soy, because corn and gluten kind of go together. So soy, for really, we used to just really say for women, but really men now have a lot of estrogen production in their bodies as well too, because of our food source. So soy is really something that for the most part, like, should not be in your diet. There's a couple of different types of soy that are okay. But again, the things that you're going to find that in, like, are not an everyday food anyway. So across the board, soy absolutely should not be in your diet, especially as a female that is sensitive to estrogen like issues. You'd find that out on a Dutch test when we run your hormones. But really, like, if you're a cycling girl, like, I tell all my patients that are teenagers, I'm like, you have no business eating soy, because it's going to just screw up your hormones indefinitely. If you're a woman that's still menstruating, you have no business doing soy. If you're pre, post, I mean, there's really not a period in time where I think soy is okay.
Yeah, and what you're talking about with hormone stuff is soy in the body is called a phytoestrogen. And what phytoestrogens do is they mimic estrogen in the body. So all the things that estrogen does that can be dangerous, and think like breast cancer, those types of things, soy does the same thing. It unlocks the same channels. It stimulates the same receptor sites. It's just bad news. And you said that gluten and corn kind of lump together in a way. So does soy, because we'll get into that in just a minute. But like, it's not in its pure form. It's been so genetically modified that even organic soy does not guarantee that it's not genetically modified. It just means that the manufacturer tried to find a non-modified source and was unsuccessful. They still get organic status anyway. So it's just like, I don't trust it unless I was growing my own soybeans and I knew that they were tested. It's just like, forget it. I'm over it.
Yeah. And Rebecca just asked, is there like a healthy tofu? Like, I haven't really found one that meets all the standards that I would eat. Are there better options? Yeah. But again, as long as it's not something that you're eating like every day, like, okay, if you find a better option, if you're like, I just really want tofu and X, Y, and Z, whatever. Okay, like, but it cannot be a part of your daily ritual. And what's crazy about soy, and we're not just talking about like the obvious, like, okay, soybeans, oh, I won't eat those. Tofu, oh, I won't eat those. Like, soy is used in so many products. Like, that's why we teach you guys, like, and that's something that our nutritionist works with everybody on, is like, you have to read the label, because soy is blended into everything, especially freaking soybean oil, which is like my number one bugaboo, because that oil, when it comes to like the ratios of omega-3 to omega-6, which in turn means your inflammatory response in the body and your heart health, soybean oil, isn't it something like 20 or 30 to 1? It's something like off the charts.
Yeah, so just speaking to that, actually, it's your omega-6 to omega-3 ratio should be 2 to 1. So for every 2 omega-6 molecules, there should be 1 omega-3.
Right.
And so the higher that ratio gets skewed, the more pro-inflammatory it is, which means the cheaper it is for manufacturers to buy it and put it into food. That's why soybean oil is in everything. That's why cottonseed oil is in everything. That's why peanut oil is in everything, because that skew is like 20, 30, 40 to 1, and then you can't figure out why your joints hurt all the time.
And it is so inflammatory to the body. Like, it is ridiculous. And I know this is like a complete blessing. I know most people would see it as a curse, but Dr. Seth, I know you are like super sensitive to soybean oil specifically. And like, we laugh because there's a couple of restaurants that like, we cook at 100% soybean oil, like promoting it as healthy because it's like vegan, right? And it's like, okay, I don't care if you cooked an all organic meal that was grass fed, free range, like zero sugar, but then you cook that in soybean oil. I would rather fast than eat that, because for me, like, I also am prone to inflammatory stuff. Most of you that are watching this are prone to inflammation, because that's just how your body is hardwired. That it's like, if I see soybean in any form, whether it's soybean oil, soy, anything, I'm like, heck to the no, I will not buy this. I like am not casting my vote and telling the manufacturer to keep producing this. I'm also the annoying person that I will contact those manufacturers and be like, hey, you're trying to create a healthy product. Why in the hell are you cooking in soybean oil? Like, can you change that to coconut oil or avocado oil, or like something that is not highly inflammatory, highly rancid, creates oxidative stress in the body. I mean, if we're paying good money for healthier options, it's absolute baloney for them to put garbage in it. And that's my 2 cents. But again, you cast your vote with your money when you buy it. So again, I don't need to be the only crazy person that contacts the manufacturer and is like, don't do this. I think the other day, Courtney went to go get us like some healthy nuts from the grocery store and came back, and it was an O Organics, which is a Safeway brand, raw cashews. And then it was organic raw cashews, sea salt, and then the third ingredient was soybean oil. And I'm like, you could throw those in the garbage. Like, I am not eating those. And she's still learning. And she's like, really? And I'm like, oh God, like that healthy snack would make me feel like garbage adjusting patients, working out, exercising, like I'd have brain fog, like it's just not going to my body. And I made them throw it away because I'm like, nobody's eating this.
Well, and you talk about casting your vote. I will say it's really changing. And it's exciting to see, because we've been, this isn't new information for you and I. We've been doing this for well north of a decade, probably going more like 2 decades. But where you see a lot of this hidden junk is in dressings, sauces, those things. Mayos, like you'll even see it'll say avocado mayo. You flip it over, the first ingredient is vegetable oil or soybean.
I was just working with a patient. She's like, well, I know you guys said avocado oil is good, and she told me she bought Hellman's avocado oil. And as soon as she said that, I was like, I already know, because Stacy and I had looked at this before. And I'm like, it's slick marketing. There is avocado oil in there, but the freaking first oil was soybean oil, followed by canola oil, which we're not even talking about canola oil. And then it had avocado oil. I'm like, oh God, like I appreciate that you're trying, like I really do, but you have to flip it over and you have to read the ingredients. You can't take like the marketing at full face value, basically.
Yeah, but like, brands like Primal Kitchen 5 years ago didn't exist as far as I know. Now, they've got buying power. At Nugget, for instance, there's like 10 different dressings on the shelf. I love seeing that, because what that means is people are tired of the bull crap. They're tired of the slick marketing. They're flipping it over. They're reading it. They're saying, yes, I want this. Yep. So guess what Nugget's going to do? They're going to put more of it on the shelf, because all they're going to do is sell you food.
Yes. I love like Nugget, Whole Foods. I think Sprouts too, like Primal Kitchen. I love supporting brands that refuse to allow toxic chemicals in their products. And so like Primal Kitchen is a huge brand that we promote for all of our condiments. Those of you guys that are in our private Facebook group will see we're doing a lot of swaps. And in the next couple of weeks, we'll be talking all about condiments, because a lot of people are like, well, it's just a condiment. It doesn't matter. Yeah, but if you're using a toxic ketchup like multiple meals a week, or a toxic mustard multiple meals a week, in my opinion, swapping out your condiments is one of the biggest changes you can make overall, because a little bit every day adds up to a lot. And so again, like one of the first switches you should do is switching out, like for a healthy mayo, which mayo gets a bad rap. Mayo in its good form with good ingredients is a great healthy fat for people to ingest. Same with like salad dressings. But again, we just have to make sure that the ingredients are on point. So again, that's something that our nutritionist will help you guys with. You guys can always ask questions in our group, tag her at Stacy. And again, this is what we're here to help, because we want to change our nutritional platform when it comes to what we're doing in the United States, because it's trending in the right direction, but there's also some grocery stores you'll never see me step foot in, because there's not enough healthy options to even have me spend my money at. So
nope. So yep, it's as simple as that. And places that will only give us like 1 or 2 options, it's like, why would I even drive down there to get one thing that won't kill me, the rest of it's toxic? It's like, it's dollars and cents to me. I'm not doing that.
Yep. And I just put Stacy's information. You guys can always tag her in the group. She is the bomb.com nutritionist. We love her. And what I love is that everything that she's going to recommend is completely holistic. So sometimes people are like, oh, I met with a nutritionist, and it's like, I was just watching a viral video, and it was a registered dietitian, and she's drinking a Diet Coke in the video and telling people all the things that we teach are wrong. And I'm like, honey, you're freaking drinking a Diet Coke as you're trying to promote health and wellness. I was like, unsubscribe.
Yeah, you're fired. So you had briefly mentioned that gluten and
Yeah.
corn are kind of this, well, you said basically the same issue. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Oh boy. So they're my least favorite things ever. Because for me personally, like they're just me and them, we don't get along. So I will say corn specifically is one of the most genetically modified crops that exist. And so again, just the fact that it's so genetically modified, that in itself right there, like wipes it out as a food that we eat. With that being said, if you truly find like an organic sprouted corn as a healthy treat once or twice, okay, fine. But the reality is the amount of money that you're going to need to spend on a truly sprouted organic corn tortilla, like I promise you, it won't be an everyday staple. And corn is another thing that is used because it is so cheap. It's a filler in a lot of stuff, and it goes down to corn starch. It goes to like corn. There's so many different derivatives, but it's highly inflammatory. That's what I care about. Highly inflammatory. It causes a range of health issues, including type 2 diabetes. It triggers autoimmune dysfunction, leaky gut, so many more things, which most of you are on here and on this platform to either make sure you don't wind up with those issues or you've got them and we're working really freaking hard on healing that. So again, corn is also a high glycemic index food, which means it causes blood sugar spike, which is why it's going to prone you and push you into more of a diabetic type issue. So it's just really not a food that should be in your diet. It steals nutrient content from the body. It actually affects your nutrient absorption. So if you eat it and then you're not absorbing nutrients, now we have a recipe for disaster. Super high in carbs. Again, it's genetically modified. Like it's not necessary. And you'll find it even in things like sauces because it's used to thicken liquids. It's used a lot in things that are meant to be fried. It's used a lot in baked goods, which again is why we have brand loyalty. And I love companies like Simple Mills, or there's so many of them that like don't use corn, or they use like a non-GMO if they have to use it. So again, non-GMO is going to be the first option, but again, just really trying to minimize that as much as possible is going to be the best option when it comes to corn. Also too, most of the time corn is fried, like corn chips are fried in corn oil. So again, now it's super inflammatory. So it's just not a recipe for success. So we don't do corn. I think there's like one brand of corn tortillas that we buy if people are coming over for taco night, because we just don't do tortillas. We do lettuce wraps or taco bowls or whatever.
Possible flour.
Possible flour. Oh yeah. Siete does all kinds of corn-free, grain-free tortillas, which are awesome. So, and then gluten.
Well, you were talking about corn. Max was barking. I don't know if you could hear it. So he was chiming in. He doesn't like corn either.
Oh boy. You want to get started on gluten real quick? I'm going to answer Jennifer's question really quick.
Yeah. So gluten, and I've told several patients this story, but when we first started dating way back when, you had known you had gluten sensitivity for a long, long time.
Oh God.
And so when we first started dating, you're like, hey, just a heads up, I don't do gluten. So if that's going to be a problem, like, find somebody else. And so I was like, oh yeah, no, I don't do gluten either. It's terrible, you know, and I had no idea why. I definitely wanted to be in your good graces. So I've been gluten free, because I have no game for a long, long time. But I'm really, really thankful because what they're finding out now is that, so I'm very sensitive. I would say I'm intolerant to dairy. Wouldn't you agree, Dr. Lacey? Like,
yeah.
It just wrecks my stomach. Well, if a person is gluten sensitive, they're also dairy sensitive.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So really getting in your good graces is one of the best things you ever did for my health, because I knew I didn't do dairy, but I was unaware I really shouldn't be doing gluten either.
Yeah. And that was actually something that I came across a couple of years ago now, when I was doing an additional seminar working with children with ADD, autistic-like symptoms, sensory integration issues. And it was just like a nugget that one of the professors was saying, and we were going over like genes and genetic profiles and genetic makeups. And he's like, yeah, and the gene that activates for gluten sensitivity is also the exact same gene that creates dairy insensitivity. And I was just like, That makes so much sense. Like if you're sensitive to one, they both create the exact same thing. So I'm like, which is why just innately, I've always not really been a huge dairy fan. And I'm like, that makes so much sense. And really, if you're sensitive to one, you're sensitive to both. They're both not good foods for you. So it's just like, just freaking cut them out. So
Yep.
Rebecca's asking if that includes Ezekiel bread in regards to just inflammatory.
Ezekiel bread does have gluten.
It does have gluten in it. It's going to be a healthier option because it is sprouted, which is why we love that it's like in the refrigerator section. But we don't buy Ezekiel bread. Back in the day, we used to for like guests and stuff like that. But we don't buy that bread. But there's
probably a better choice would be the Alvarado Street Bakery sprouted sourdough. Again, there's still gluten in it, but it's going to be your best option, like you said, for guests or whatever. But, you know, the reality is the whole sandwich thing, it's tough because if you're going to go with a higher carb meal, the last thing you need to be adding to it is fat. So you either need to be high carb, low fat, high carb. I mean,
you just dropped a bomb on people, but that is the truth, especially if you are trying to work with weight loss. Consuming carbs and fat together are a no-go. Your body can't break it down. So the whole like theory of a sandwich, like, I mean, are you putting vegetables on it and then no protein and then no, like, so again, some of this is just, we have to hardwire and change how we eat. I know some people are always like, what's a bread alternative? I'm like, just stop needing bread. And I know that's easier said than done. This has been my journey for almost 20 years now. But like, just get out of the habit of doing like a sandwich. We found these awesome coconut wraps on Thrive. You can do all the Siete brand tortillas as a wrap. We don't do bread in our house, but we still do like wraps and sandwiches. It's just either going to be with lettuce or a healthy wrap alternative, which I will repost in this feed after we're done today. We do not do pizza. Dr. Seth, every once in a while we'll eat pizza like what, 2 or 3 times a year, maybe?
I mean, no more than twice a year. I would say once every 6 months. Masulo, shout out in Sacramento. My opinion is the healthiest. This pizza in all of Sacramento. And I'll take an herb called albizia right before I eat it because it's an acute antihistamine, basically. But it'll limit that response. I'll make sure I supplement with stomach acid while I'm eating it. And then I'll take charcoal that night to neutralize any of the nastiness. But that's how I go about it. I can't do egg, but there's a recipe floating around the ethers of the internet where they'll basically poach chicken and then blend that up with and then add egg to it, and you can make like a chicken dough. Bake that, and then you can put your sauce and your stuff on top of it. If you're going to do it that way, then your protein is in your dough. So there's little tricks out there. You know,
there are so many pizzas now. I mean, we're egg free, but again, if you were going to do like a healthier pizza, and even if egg were sensitivity, I just posted in the comment window like the oops corrector. So again, if you're going to eat something that you're not supposed to, you need to take albizia, like Dr. Seth said, to reduce the histamine production. You're going to take digestive enzymes to help support that stomach acid. And then if you go to like nuggets or sprouts, like in the pizza section, there's so many like gluten-free, dairy-free. So like pick whatever's the most important to you. Like, so for us, if we were going to get a pizza like that, like for the kids, our number one thing for us, because everybody's food tests show gluten in my family is like a 4. We don't do it. Our number one priority is going to be a gluten-free pizza. And then our secondary choice within gluten-free is trying to find something that's egg-free. It doesn't really happen all that much. So like if we're going to pick something, that's like kind of how we go through it. But again, like he said, we'll try and find this week and post like a healthy, couple healthy different ways to do pizza. And again, it depends on if you're egg free or not. But again, my sister-in-law Samantha's in our group. She is an awesome baker and knows how to bake without eggs. Sometimes it's really nice when the family has all these food sensitivities because we learn how to adapt. But there are plenty of options for doing pizza. And again, sometimes if you just want to have unhealthy pizza, it's not going to kill you, but make sure you're doing the albizia. You're taking multiple digestive enzymes to break that down. And then you're taking charcoal at the end of the night so that, again, you're at least minimizing the side effects that you're going to get. So again, You don't need to be perfect all the time. It's just how you do this. And people are like, you guys never eat pizza? For me, it's not worth it. Like, even if I did all those oops correctors, I have such a sensitivity to gluten. It's not going to go well for me. It's not my number one thing. So
Yep. And for me, if you could eat one food every day for the rest of your life with no repercussions whatsoever, it would definitely be pizza. I think I'm a Ninja Turtle at heart or something like that, because golly, I love pizza, but I limit it to twice a year. And then guess what? I don't get to feel sorry for myself the next day because my joints hurt, maybe my back hurts, my face is swollen. It's like, geez, I don't understand what's going on with my body. No, I know what's going on. I did it to myself. I have nobody to blame but myself. And I just bought myself another 6 months of doing things the right way.
Yeah. Well, and totally. And like, again, you're sensitive to gluten, you're sensitive to dairy. So again, like your face even breaks out a little bit, like the next 2 days, you're up like 2 pounds and it's like, okay, whatever. I know that's going to happen. Don't throw yourself a pity party, just course correct. Rebecca asked if there's a brand we recommend for the above. I'll take some pictures over the next couple days between me and Stacy in the grocery store of like healthier alternatives. That way you guys can kind of see like what we're talking about. But again, everybody's food sensitivities and programs are a little bit different. So like maybe what I would pick for me isn't necessarily what would be the best for you. But we'll give you guys a lot of options to play around with in that sense. So
yep. And then here's the trickle down. So a lot of gluten-free crusts, they got bad oils in them.
I know.
So if you're sensitive to certain oil, are you better off having, it's all these things. So maybe I'll do a video on the chicken crust pizza, because it's really not that hard. I'm sure the munchkins would like to help me make it. It might be fun to do. So.
Yep. And we probably should try and do that too. Also egg free, because I'm sure if we blended in like flax eggs or something like that, I'm sure that it would be fine. So I will not be attempting that recipe. That's all you.
I can do it. Yeah.
So, and again, just going over gluten, gluten is also like corn, where it provides absolutely no essential nutrients to the body. So again, like you're not going to get any caloric or you will get caloric intake, plenty of caloric intake, but you're not getting any nutrients. So people are like, well, don't we need gluten? Don't we need grain? It's part of the food pyramid. The food pyramid, in my opinion, excuse my language, is complete friggin' crap. Like, you want to be sick, suffering, miserable, eat according to the food pyramid.
And the food pyramid was bought by the people that are selling you that.
So, well, remember Michelle Obama actually had an awesome food pyramid. That was her whole like thing that she wanted to do as part of their like presidency, was to do this whole like healthy campaign for kids. And remember, it like got completely, who bought it out? Like the dairy industry or somebody shut it down.
So within the first month, it got shut down. And I believe the name of the campaign was Get Moving. And what that meant was get moving towards healthier nutritional options. And they completely changed it to an activity campaign. So just the kids need to exercise more. And so within 30 days, her entire campaign was torched by a big business that doesn't want people to know the truth about healthy food. I love that she had the right intentions. And this isn't a political thing, but like that got bought up and paid for real quick.
Absolutely. Because again, like we know, I'm laughing at Crystal because she goes the food pyramid and then has like a bunch of toxic skulls. Because it's just like, again, not the talk for today about politics, but it's just like, if you think the FDA has your best health in their interest, you are surely mistaken. So again, which is why like the base of the food pyramid is grain. I'm like, if you want to have chronic inflammatory disease processes in your body, which leads me to like gluten creates inflammation specifically in the intestinal tract. So again, that's why this is, no matter if it shows up on your food sensitivity report or not, it's creating inflammation in the lining of your gut tissue. So again, if we're trying to truly heal your immune system, whether your goal is to be as healthy as possible during this virus that's going on, whether it's to truly heal your autoimmunity or your immune dysfunction or your hormones, if you're creating inflammation in the lining of your gut tissue, you can never get ahead. So again, we're not saying you always have to be gluten-free, but it should be a huge priority of you like 98% of the time, because again, you can't truly get health at a cellular level if you're creating and putting something in your body that's highly inflammatory. Not to mention, most wheat here are gluten, because gluten is a derivative, a portion of what you find in wheat, is sprayed with something called glycophosphate. And that really at its core is what's really wrong with our grain in the United States compared to grain in other countries, is the amount of glycophosphate that is sprayed on our crops. And for those of you that don't know what glycophosphate is, because it's a pretty big word, and if you're not in the science realm, it's Roundup. Like literally what we spray, well, we don't, but what people spray on their weeds in their grass, that's literally what's getting sprayed on the crops. And then that then in turn is getting put into our body. And it is a known fact that glycophosphate is something called an endocrine disruptor, which anytime you hear the word endocrine, it means hormones. So glycophosphate is a known hormonal endocrine disruptor. So again, if your goal is to heal your hormones, you can't be consuming glycophosphate. And I freaking hate glycophosphate because what's so frustrating, and that's why Dr. Seth loves the pizza place that we go to, it's called Masillo's in Land Park, is because they actually import their flour from, where is it? Italy.
Yeah.
And they don't do glycophosphate there, which is why if he's going to have pizza, he's making sure that the wheat that he's eating is completely glycophosphate free, so that again, now we're only getting the damage to the body of wheat, but not the endocrine and hormonal disruptor of the glycophosphate and the toxicity component of it.
Right. And then this is what goes back to being organic. And I'll end it on this point. So if you sprayed Roundup on a plant, it will die. Except if you genetically modify the plant to be able to withstand Roundup. And that's exactly what, Monsanto did with wheat, with soy, with corn. And it's all called Roundup Ready blends, meaning you can take the plant, spray the crap out of it with glycophosphates, the plant still thrives. And then what are we eating? We're eating the glycophosphate and we all can't figure out, we're all so sick. So it just kind of wraps a bow on those issues independent of an IgG response on your food sensitivity. That's why these foods have to go, and they have to go for good.
Yeah. Danny said, what about alcohol and gluten? Oh, that's actually another really good one. I will say I no longer drink any form of alcohol. That's not like necessarily for everybody. But for me, when it came to like truly healing my hormones and my gut, the last thing that I needed to give up was alcohol. And that's because most alcohol is gluten or corn derived. Now, that doesn't mean they all are. So if you are going to do alcohol, let's talk, is it tequila needs to be at least 5 times distilled? No, tequila, no. Vodka needs to be at least 5 times distilled to not have the protein marker of like any of the brewer's yeast, baker's yeast, any of that. And then tequila, really, if you're going to do tequila, it needs to be a Blanco tequila to not create that spike in food sensitivity. And then any of the other stuff. Wine.
Well, wine is gluten free. So wine, spirits not derived from corn that have been distilled a lot, or tequila, Blanco, meaning white. So the tequila that's colored, like it's called añejo or extra añejo, you can just get yourself into trouble very easy. I'm not saying those things are bad. It's just you're going to run into more problems. So sticking with a Blanco is going to be best.
Yeah. So, and again, you can get really creative. So like somebody asked for the Albizia product. I'm going to put that in here. We sell all of the oops correctors in our clinic, or we can help you if you need to get synced up with how to get Albizia, how to get charcoal and digestive enzymes. But going back to the alcohol. So like, if you want to go have a drink, just make it the healthiest option possible. So there's a lot of also alcohols like that are gluten-free. They are not used with corn, or it's non-GMO corn. There's a lot of vodkas that are made from potato now too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, and then again, like do it in like a sparkling water with like essential oils or lime. If you're going to be doing wine, you need to do digestive enzymes while you're drinking it, so that again, it doesn't create, if you have a sensitivity to yeast. But again, we can help you guys specifically with alcohol and gluten, but because we're not saying you shouldn't ever drink. Okay. Most people would kill me if I said that. But again, just choose healthier options. What is the one that you guys all like out of the can? High Noon.
I don't like those, but yeah, High Noon is one of them.
Everybody else in our family loves them. High Noons are, I think, 6 times distilled. So again, there's no protein marker in that drink that is going to create any type of food sensitivity. So those are great options as well too. So cool. All right, guys, we are super looking forward to the month of September, kicking off everything immune system. Next week, because of the Labor Day weekend, we will not be on next Sunday, but basically the remaining 3 Sundays in September will be all things immune support, coming down to herbs, vitamins, supplements, nutrition, you name it, which is perfect timing with back to school, the virus that's going on, and just overall wellness. So we are looking forward to you guys all tuning in the month of September. We hope you guys found this super helpful. I will also upload this so that you guys can rewatch it again later. Have a wonderful day, everybody.